Chapter 5. Take up the cross. Many think the ultimate goal of life is to reach a place where there is no suffering of any kind. No wonder we are surprised when Christ asks us, "Will you suffer for me?" From the moment Jesus spoke these words until today, people have had to choose whether they would deny themselves and take up their cross for him, or avoid the suffering and not be his disciple. This is in fact a choice God's people have been making for ages. Hebrews 11:24 through 27 says that Moses dealt with this exact issue. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. For he looked to the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Moses didn't accidentally pick up his cross. He made a choice. He chose to refuse being called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, which would have allowed him to enjoy the passing pleasures of life, and instead he willingly accepted suffering for following his God. Let us remember that to refuse something means to forcefully push it away. Refusing is much more forceful than forgetting or disregarding. Moses said in essence, "I have an opportunity to take what the world is offering, but I refuse it and choose to suffer affliction with the people of God rather than to enjoy the passing pleasure of sin." In this, we can see that Moses took up his cross. We must, however, be careful not to misapply Christ's teaching about the cross. It is foolish to seek ways to harm ourselves for the sake of God. We shouldn't purposely stir up a riot so that we can be beaten or spit upon. This is not the cross. This is stupidity. A dear friend of mine, who's been beaten near to death several times for his faith in Christ, can be heard saying, "Some people are beaten for Jesus, and others for foolishness." Let us be sure to understand that taking up our cross doesn't mean recklessly looking for suffering, but instead it is our refusal of this world and our choosing of Christ above all things, above our husband, our wife, our job, and ultimately above our own life. Again, Moses esteemed the reproach or shame of Christ as greater than all the treasures in Egypt. Pharaoh owned everything, and Moses looked at it and determined that it was nothing compared to what awaited him if he chose the Lord. This is paralleled in Matthew when Christ asks, "What if you gained the whole world and lost your soul?" Matthew 16:26. The truth is that if you gained all the dollars, yen, rupees, gold, diamonds, companies, servants, retirement, and all the yachts, but lost your soul, you were cheated. Moses wisely looked to better rewards than these when he took up his cross, saying, "I am not going to be a child of Pharaoh. I could be a king or a prince, but instead I choose to be a slave for the Lord." David said, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness." Psalm 84:10. Jesus himself willingly chose to suffer and now asks us to join him. Therefore, Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered outside the gate. Therefore, let us go forth to him outside the camp, bearing his reproach. Hebrews 13:12 and 13.
Thank you for listening to the audio version of His Final Words, a discipleship manual by Travis Hunt. This audiobook will continue in the following videos.